Skibbity-saurus rexes. I wanted to tell you what the world's best earbuds that you can possibly get on the market. And they're sub $150. And these earbuds image like studio monitors with a completely transparent, clean response. They're also very comfortable, and you can get nice cables for it. You can even get a 4.4 millimeter cable, a little string bean casseroles. Shwiggity, 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 shwill. And these earbuds are the SimGot EM6Ls. The SimGot EM6Ls, my tits. The SimGot EM6Ls. These have the smoothest treble of any headphone earbud in the world. They have the best tuning in the world. They sound like you're in a slightly dampened studio, recording flawless, transparent audio. And we can see that on the frequency response. My little string bean casseroles. Look at that frequency response. Look how smooth it is. Oh, my little skippity dippity doos, my little schwiggity schwiggity schwoos. I want you to look at these little bad boys and get yourself a Apple dongle. That's all you really need is an Apple dongle. I want you guys to look at those little string beans right there. Really, it's a nest of quality. Come out and show yourselves to the audience. Show them. Look at these little bad boys. They're so small. They're so perfect. And then the SimGot EM6L rise like a phoenix. They're not too big. They're not too small. They will never hurt your ears. They are perfect in every way. And you get yourself a nice little Apple dongle. And it fits right in there. You don't even see it. Nice little USB-C Apple dongle. And you can connect it to your phone with a nice analog to digital conversion. My little skibbities, we're going to talk about just how good these little bad boys are. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go to my website and we're going to go to the end game grapher, my little string beans, and we're going to look at the SimGot EM6Ls. I want you to look at these. I want you to look at how good they measure. I want you to realize something, my little ham cocoa bunnies. These are spectacular. For example, a lot of people will use the biodynamic DT770s and for all of their audio stuff. And when we look at the comparisons between the M6Ls and the DT770 Pro 250, we can see some differences. We can see the peaks and the dips in the bass. We can see the 4 kHz dip in the presence region, about upper mids presence. We can see some treble dips and we can see some prominence here. So if we look, they have the same frequency response, the biodynamic DT770 250 ohm and the SimGot EM6Ls, my dudes, but the main difference is one of them is a lot smoother across the board, as we can see here. Okay, my little hams, we don't have all these dips and lumps and stuff. You'll notice that it sounds significantly thinner on the DT770s because the bass has these holes in the bass. You have these holes in the bass that are just simply not there on the SimGot EM6Ls. We don't have these holes in the bass. And around 4K we don't have this dip. And around 10K we don't have this dip. And again around 6K we don't have this lump. We don't have this dip, we don't have this peak. It's just a lot smoother across the board with the SimGot EM6Ls, my little string bean casseroles. So again, if you want to be able to mix and master out of the box with the world's best earbuds, you want to get yourself some SimGot EM6Ls. I want you can mix and master with these. You can critically listen. You can game with these. These are the world's best studio earbuds. The world's best, the SimGot EM6Ls. They fit like a charm, my dudes. They fit so easily. They're so comfy. You put them in just like this, and you can listen to things and critically listen. I can actually, whenever I want to listen to the tonality of a microphone, or I want to really listen to the transparency of an audio sample, I want a critical listen, I get the SimGot EM6Ls out. These have been proven time and time again to be spectacular, my little cocoa bunnies. These are truly the world's best earbuds. The SimGot EM6Ls. So I want you to go ahead and check out the description down below. Get yourself some nice SimGot EM6Ls. They're spectacular. They're wonderful. They're amazing. They're the SimGot EM6Ls. Oh yeah, my little hams. The SimGot EM6Ls. Yeah, boys. They're those best earbuds just for me and you. Yeah. And I would say a runner-up to the SimGot EM6Ls. Well, if we go back and look, we could pull up the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. We can see the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, my dudes. The Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, we can see they're very, very similar in their performance, actually, and they're true wireless. You know, we can see they're basically the same across the board, except you get a little bit more shimmer with the Buds Pros. You get a little bit more bite, a little bit more airiness with the Buds Pros, and maybe a little bit more coloration in the treble right there, a little bit of dips and peaks right here. So it's not as smooth in the highs as the EM6L on the Galaxy Buds Pros, but what can you expect, my little hams? These things are good enough for music enjoyment on the go. It's like studio monitors in your ears, my dudes. So I want you guys to go on the eBays if you would like, and you can still find these brand spanking new condition in waterproof containers that you can take with you wherever you go, my little hams. Pops. Pop goes the weasels. You can seal that bad boy up and put it on your 3DO as like a little podium for my little cocoa bunnies. So yeah, the discontinued Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros are quite spectacular with their woofer tweeter studio monitor two-way speaker system. And if you want to get really spectacular, you can get the EPZ P40s. The EPZ P40s. The EPZ P40s have a really smooth response all the way across the board as well. These are a little bit brighter with a little bit of a leaner mid bass for some punchy bass. And these bad boys, yeah, these are pretty. These are pretty babies. They're pretty. Look at that. They're very shiny, the EPZ P40s. Look at that. And you can even get their TP35 Pro DAC amp and 4.4 millimeter connection type. Yeah, boys, and then you're really cooking with gas. So you can check those out with the TP35 Pro. TP35 Pro, especially if you're a Samsung user and you do not want to use the Apple dongle. Yeah, boys. And again, we can go ahead and look at them. We can look at the EPZs, the EPZ P40s. And we can see just how good they are as well. see just how good these are. Look at that. Schwiggity, schwiggity, shwoo. These are all end game, end game, end game. I'll see you later, alligators. World's best audio equipment. Just for you. Just for me and you. Yeah, boys. Hey, my little skibbity dibbity dibbs. I wanted to talk about the best audio equipment to get for ASMR, music enjoyment, gaming, and just all around the best equipment that you can get for consumers and producers and everybody in between. My little college students, my little gym rats, my little guinea pigs who just want to walk to the gas station and get a juicy drink. Yeah, boys. So the first audio gear that you should ever buy is this. The Samsung Type C earphones. These have dual drivers. The EOIC 100s, they have a built-in DAC amp. They are USB-C. They are adequate for the large majority, 99.9% of people will not be able to tell the difference between anything this good and better. You could spend $1,000 and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and this $15 earbud. These are that good, and they have consumer level soundstage and bass, so they sound a little bit extra wide, a little bit recessed in the mids, and very powerful bass. Some of the most powerful bass. You could argue it's too powerful. It's what everybody desires. It's what everybody wants. So you get these little earbuds. They're so cheap. You can get multiples of them. They are so good. These little bad boys with their little USB-C connections. Yeah, boys. They're built-in microphones. They're very comfortable. They fit in your ears real good. These bad boys are amazing, my dudes. And if we go ahead and look at them on the frequency response graphs, we can see what I'm talking about. So we go to my website, go to the in-game grapher, and yeah, boys, we go to Samsung. Yeah, boys, we go to Samsung EOIC 100s, and we can see just how good they are. So when we look at these bad boys, let's look at them. Let's pull it up. So we have extremely powerful bass that goes over the target. It's a little bit unnaturally powerful and bassy, but that's really good for those consumers who really want bass. And we can see it's a little bit recessed in the mids around here. It just kind of makes things sound extra distant in the mids. And then we have a lot of treble clarity and extension all the way to 20 kilohertz. We do have these two peaks, but again, unless you are obsessed with audio quality, those two peaks are not going to ruin anything for you. You're going to get a very smooth, transparent sound all the way across the board. Better than a lot of studio headphones. So again, we always want to trace over the frequency response, and if the measurement is smoother than how you can trace it, then you know it's real good. So these two peaks are the only bad thing here. Everything else is kind of just like the presentation of the sound. You know, it's a little overly bassy, maybe a little bit distant around 800 hertz, but very clear in the highs, very, very clear. A lot of detail, a lot of really, really good sounds. And again, you can do a little bit better in some regard. Like again, we can look at the Samsung Galaxy Buds 4 Pros in comparison and see they're the same thing. So you're getting the same quality. They have the same tonality just about as the multiple $100 wireless Samsung Buds 4 Pros. They have the same peaks. You know, it's a little bit brighter and shimmerier on the $15 earbud versus the multi-$100 true wireless earbuds. But we can see, I mean, again, the response follows the target just the same. They're very, very similar, very, very similar. But you're only paying $15 instead of multiples hundreds of dollars. See, I'm smart, my dudes. I'm smart. I buy the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, the original. You can still get them on eBay. Brand spanking new, my dudes. Brand spanking new. And you can get them in waterproof cases and everything. And yeah, these things, the original Samsung Galaxy Buds, in my opinion, again, these came out around the same time that they designed the 3.5 millimeter version of the wired version. These are just now USB-C instead of 3.5 millimeter, but these came out around the same time as like the S21 Ultra. So yeah, around the time of the S21 Ultra, my dudes, around the time this phone came out is when they created the end game earbuds. So the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, we can see they're the same thing, except maybe you could argue better tuned throughout the response. They better match the target, my dudes. So again, you can get the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros discontinued but very cheap on eBay, $50-$60. You can get the EOIC 100s for like $15, and you can really get amazing sound, my dudes. So you really want to get the EOIC 100 Samsungs and the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, and you can get them in a waterproof case, yeah boys, and you'll have true end game, my dudes. Now again, you can even do a little bit better. You can do a little bit better, my dudes. You can get the SimGot EM6Ls. These are just smoother in the treble. You can see on the frequency response, they're smoother in the treble, but they're the same thing. So if we look up the SimGot EM6Ls, my dudes, we can see that the EM6Ls are even smoother. They're even smoother. So we can see how the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros and the SimGot EM6Ls are almost identical. So again, if you get the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros and the EM6Ls, they're both in-game EM6Ls and Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. If we trace over this, they're virtually the same thing, except you could see that there's more shimmer, there's more bite on the Buds Pros. They sound a little bit more open and airy, while it's a little bit more rolled off on the EM6Ls, but they're the same exact tonality, the same exact tuning. And if you're really into audio gear and you think like the Sennheiser HT650s are better, we can see that like they don't have any bass or treble. So these are studio headphones that are multiples of hundreds of dollars, and we can see they don't have any bass, they don't have any treble, they have nothing but mids. Okay, but if you want that bass extension and you want that treble extension, you can start getting these, SimGot EM6Ls and the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. And again, I personally use DT990 headphones. So we can look at the DT990 headphones with worn ear pads, and we can see how the biodynamic DT990s with worn ear pads have much greater treble clarity and even more bass. So they lack a little bit of sub bass rumble, but the DT990s are definitely better than the HT650s when it comes to a clear, open, detailed treble and a boomy bass. But you still get those excellent mids that the Sennheisers are known for. And because the Sennheisers, all they have is mids. They don't have treble. They don't have bass. They have weak bass. They have weak treble. So, all they have is mids. So that's the reason why everybody's like, oh, that they have excellent mids. It's kind of embarrassing, my dudes. So again, and then there's always more. There's always more, my little hams, the EPZ P40s, yeah boys, the EPZ P40s, yeah boys, EPZ P40s, yeah, these bad boys are pretty good too. If we look at the EPZ P40s, EPZ P40s, we see those are really good too. They really follow the target in a lot of ways, yeah boys. So again, you can get the EPZ P40s You get the EPZP40s, my dudes. And yeah, you get this TP35 Pro with it. Just for that 4.4 millimeter jack. And the EPZP40s, yeah boys. Yeah boys, amazing. Amazing, 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 amazing. Yeah boys, these are incredible. You know, they have like really, really, really smooth frequency response across the board. Yeah boys, so you have a lot of options, and again, you can get it with the TP35 Pro. But again, I do think the ultimate end game for a lot of people is the SimGot EM6Ls. The SimGot EM6Ls with a Apple dongle, especially if you have an iPhone. You know, this is true end game SimGot EM6Ls with a Apple dongle. That's all you need for studio quality sound. But there's a few options, like I said. You know, we can look at all these different options. You know, the EPZP40s, the SimGot EM6Ls, the Biodynamic DT990s with worn ear pads. Again, a lot of people poo-poo the DT990s. A lot of people poo-poo these headphones. And it's because, again, when you first get the DT990s with worn ear pads, with fresh ear pads, they tend to have some peaks in the highs. So, you know, a lot of people complain. If you see somebody complain about the DT990s, saying they have very harsh and shrill treble, again, we could see, you know, that they smooth out over time. They get warmer in the bass and low mids over time. So again, the DT990s with worn ear pads, after you use them for a few months, they warm up in the mid bass, and they smooth out in the treble. So they're less bright, less fatiguing, less peaky, less harsh. So, you know, you just gotta use them, and they age like a fine wine. My little handguns, my little cocoa bunnies. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys later. Hey my dudes, hey my dudes, hey my dudes. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. I got this thing today. It's called a water flosser. It's a water pick. I got a water pick. Yeah, boys. And a water pick is like flossing, but with water. It's very, 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 very popular. It's called the water pick. I was kind of aware of these bad boys, but I never would have thought I would buy one. But like, I was just like on the Amazons, and I got this water pick here, my dudes. And yeah, so the water pick, it's like it sprays your mouth with water. It works really good. It's like flossing, but with water. And yeah, I've only set it up to like 5 intensity. It's very, very intense. I can't imagine setting it up to 10. But you know, the more I use it, maybe. So it's real simple, my dudes. You just open the lid, you pour in the water, and then you close it, and then you turn it on, and then you set the intensity, and then you put this thing in your mouth, and you turn it on with the little switch here, the little switcheroo. You can turn it on like so, and yeah, you water floss. And I didn't just get this. You know, it was kind of a spur of the moment thing that I bought. I also bought some of these. Like, I got a 2-pack of these. They seem to come with a lot of stuff. These are the my wife really tore the crap out of this one, but this is the Aquasonic Black Series. And I know some of you guys are like, why did you get the oval one? Why didn't you get the circle one that rotates? Well, apparently this is good enough. It's a lot better than brushing, but you know, it's the oval shape. It's kind of like what a lot of you barbaric weirdos use, like this Disney princess oval shape one, like so. But apparently, you know, this is more like sweeping, and you know, it's for lazy people that just want to use like a similar toothbrush so it vibrates, my dudes. Oh boy. Oh boy, yeah boys. Got water all over the place. Skibbity. But yeah, it works real good, my little hams. This is the first time I've ever had an electrical toothbrush. And again, it comes with a lot of stuff. I think this one's mine because I didn't tear the crap out of the box like my wife does. But yeah, it comes with this like carrying case. So I guess you can take it with you. And it comes with like two of these heads. But you know, so that's my second one. But I think it actually has more in here. There's like, you know, there's more in here, my dudes. So there's more brush heads. You get more brush heads. So you get a lot of brush heads, my dudes. Get a lot of brush heads. See, I got 2 brush heads. And then how many brush heads are in here? And yeah, wow. You get like 6 more brush heads. So I got 3 brush heads here. And another 3 here. So I got 6, 7. I got 8 brush heads. That's a lot. You know, I change my toothbrush out like once a year, you know, or just whenever I start to feel concerned about how old my toothbrush is. But yeah, and then my wife got her own, so she probably has 8 also. So it came in like a slightly discounted, but it was like $70 for both of these brushes. And apparently, again, these are kind of the oval shaped. They have the round shape toothbrush, and those are for like going on each individual tooth in your mouth. And supposedly they're a little bit better, but you know, they require more effort. They're a little bit more intense, and they're louder. And so I remember I tried one before, an electrical toothbrush, and it like had like a hole in it. And like where the metal prong is vibrating, like you could literally get your tongue stuck in it. Well, not stuck in it, but your tongue could literally go in it, and like it would pinch your tongue, you know, on the vibrating thing. So this one's completely enclosed. So a lot better design. So I mean, again, $70 for 2 of these with 8 brushes, and it does feel premium. It's a very kind of almost rubbery feel. Feels really good, my little skibbities. So I'm really happy with these. So again, it's the Aquasonic Black Series. It works real good, real good, real good. Yeah, boys. And again, this water pick, I think it's, so this is Aquarius Hydro Pulsar water pick. Very, very popular. Works real good. Yeah, boys. So, yeah, I gotta clean up all this mess and put it, I'm gonna clean up all this mess and put it somewhere. But yeah, you get a lot of stuff. I'm actually quite impressed by how many toothbrushes you get, the quality of how it feels. I don't feel like it's gonna break on me anytime soon. And again, you know, there's some benefits to having the oval one. It's supposedly quieter, less intense, maybe easier to use. And that combined with the water pick is more than sufficient. So again, the water pick, very, very simple device. This was also like $70, so I paid probably like, you know, $150, $60, $70 for all of this. It was just kind of like a spur of the moment purchase, my dudes. But I was like, you know, this barbaric flossing and, you know, using things like these. Like, it's just like, what am I doing with my life? Shwiggity, skibbity, dibbity, dibbity, yibbity, boys. Let me know in the comments section down below. Do you use electric toothbrushes? Do you use a water pick, water pick, water pick? It's pretty fun, pretty cool. I gotta find a space for all this. I got so much crap on my desk, and I think I just really need to clean all this crap up. We're working on it. We're cleaning everything up. My little skibbity dibbity wiggity wiggity woos. My little jiggity 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 shwoos. Yeah, boys, I'll see you guys later, alligators. Hey, my dudes, hey, my dudes, hey, my dudes. I wanted to tell you guys about the scammers peddling the Samsung Type-C earphones, the 3.5mm version, the IG955 that hasn't been in production for years, and the majority of them are fakes, but the Type C that I have been recommending, they still produce it. It's USB-C. It's got a very sufficient built-in DAC amp and really good separation on the left and right channel, 10 times better than 3.5 millimeter, which is the reason why most people these days go to 4.4 millimeter over 3.5 millimeter. For example, the this is a 4.4 millimeter. You can see how fancy that bad boy looks. Not a 3.5 millimeter. So if you get a 4.4 millimeter, instead of a 3.5 millimeter, you'll have better separation. But like, the main thing I wanted to talk about is, again, the EOIC 100s, the IG 955. If somebody is telling you to buy these with custom, ear tips and EQ, they're scammers. They're legitimate call center Indian scammer level stuff. So again, we can go to my grapher, and again, I don't peddle the IG. So Samsung EO IC 100. So if we look here, we can see the treble is not smooth, and no ear tips are gonna fix that. I don't even humor it. I don't even have the measurements on here because I'm not promoting such garbage. So again, the EO IC 100s, IG 955s, they're really good. They got a lot of bass. They're pretty transparent in the mids, and the treble is pretty clear. Okay, but we could see two authentic, real peaks that it's just inherent to the earbud. There's really nothing you can do about it. The 8K peak and the 15K peak. You can't really fix this. There's no ear tips that are going to fix this. It's always going to not have smooth treble. So anybody who's saying this is in-game, they're idiots. That's the reason why it's called budget approved. It's not in-game. Again, we can look at the EM6Ls, which are basically the same thing but cleaned up. So the SimGod EM6Ls are in-game. They have better sub-bass extension. They're not bloated in the mid-bass. They're not recessed in the mids. They don't have the peaks. So there's the SimGod EM6L, which is true in-game. And there's a lot of hustlers and peddlers claiming that the cheapo Samsung EO IC 100s are in-game. They sound really good, and to a novice, this is all they deserve, is some $15 earbuds. But like I said, it's not really in-game. You can get the SimGod EM6Ls, which have a much smoother treble. These are a lot better. Okay, so get yourself some SimGod EM6Ls. Okay, not the EO IC 100s. If you want true in-game, if like again, the only reason why anybody should be buying these is as gifts to people. I've given the SimGod EM6L as a gift to people, and they don't appreciate it. Most people are not going to appreciate the SimGod EM6Ls. They're gonna say, "Oh, I can't really tell the difference." They're not gonna appreciate these. So it's more of a joke to recommend these to people. It's more of a joke. And again, there's Indian scammers out there telling you to put them in upside down to eliminate the occlusion effect. And use EQ and special tips. The treble's still going to sound funky. It's not going to sound perfect. And you're just going to look like an idiot. I've known so many Indian scammers who sold me software that made all these promises that just wasted my time. There's so many, and you can tell I go to Harvard. I know I speak to the best the best gurus, you know, the best, most famous gurus that go to Harvard. Okay, they're scammers. So again, I just want you guys to understand that anybody claiming that the EOIC 100s, again, I don't even have the IG 955 on here because it's discontinued. You shouldn't be buying it. You're probably going to get a fake. And again, there's so many better things out there, like the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, which are discontinued, that are just a little bit better tuned than the EOIC 100s or IG 955s. So you can get again the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, true wireless, you know, similar driver design. So don't think that you're getting in game with these $15. That's a scam. They're scammers. You're not getting in game. Sorry. No EQ, no special tips is going to fix that. You'll see on their measurements the treble is not smooth. They have to fake it if they did want to. The treble is never going to look smooth, no matter what ear tips you use, no matter what EQ you use. It's a bunch of crap.
Hey, my little skippity source Rexes. I wanted to talk about what is perfect audio. Some people think you should only use one headphone, one microphone, because it's the perfect, it's the end game, it's the best. But as you can see, I'm using 4 microphones right now. I'm using a 3DO, a lovely 3DO for these ears. It's very application specific.
Hey, my little guinea pigs, I wanted to talk about the path that you should take when it comes to audio equipment. The first earbuds you should ever get are the Type-C earphones by Samsung, more specifically the EO IC100s. These have a built-in DAC amp. They have a woofer and a tweeter. These things are only like $15 if you buy them appropriately on the Amazons. They're actually in insanely high demand these days because people have caught on that these sound about as good as their multiple hundred Pro line of true wireless earbuds. So these earbuds are spectacular. I've actually owned like 5 pairs of these now because my wife keeps losing them, and funny enough, my wife keeps using them. I don't technically use them anymore. But they are just as good. Well, they're almost as good as the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. I personally use the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. My dudes, these things have a similar design, a woofer and a tweeter, as we can see right here. Two-way speaker system, yeah boys, for rich studio quality sound. And we can actually go to my website. We can go to my website here, and we can go to the in-game grapher, and we can look up Samsung EO IC100s, and we can see they're pretty good earbuds, my dudes. They're pretty good. But we can see they're a little bit bloated in the mid bass. They're a little bit overly bassy. And we can see, they dip down around 800 hertz for some reason. And, there's some peaks in the treble. But besides these spots, they're really good. And again, that's where the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros come in, where they kind of clean up the sound a little bit from that other one. We can see they don't have the dip anymore at 800 hertz. They're not overly bassy. We can see that 8K peak's a little bit reduced, but they still have kind of like, some bite to the treble, which is perfectly fine. But we can see how the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros are actually really good. But the EO IC100s are actually still in production. And again, we can actually look at the latest Buds 4 Pros and see that they're not much different. So you might as well just get the EO IC100s, because you're basically getting the pro sound at $15, yeah boys. So that's the reason why we get the Samsung audio equipment, and the reason why we have Samsung phones. We get the Samsung phones, my dudes. But this audio equipment, although it's nice, you can take the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros in your wireless container here, and we can see they're in this waterproof container, and you can take them with you, and it's really good. Oh boy, don't want to have those fall on the ground, we'll lose them. So these are really good, the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. About my little skibbity dibbities, my little schwiggity schwiggies. What if we want to do even better than that? Well, that's when we've got something even better to show you. And that's the SIMGOT EM6Ls. These SIMGOT EM6Ls have a even smoother, better, well-tuned frequency response. So these SIMGOT EM6Ls are actually even better, and we can look at them on the grapher too, my dudes. We can pull up the SIMGOT EM6Ls, and oh boy, look at that, my dudes. It's getting even better. So besides kind of like a little bit of a dampened sound in the air frequencies, it could be a little bit airier, a little bit brighter. But besides that, it's perfect. It's flawless. And I highly recommend you guys get these bad boys. And you can get them with a Apple dongle if you're an Apple fanboy. You guys were no longer in the realm of Samsung. But these bad boys, Neo boys, these are true end-game earbuds. Right? They're the best. They're better than the rest. And that's what I recommend. The SimGod EM6Ls for the world's best IEMs. But we're not done. We're not done, my little skibbity dibbity doos, my little schwiggity shoes. There's some other options out there. And that's where we have the EPZ P40s. The EPZ P40s, my little guinea pigs. And these bad boys have an exceptionally smooth, well-tuned frequency response as well. Okay, and these are really fancy boys. These are really fancy boys. My dudes are really fancy. We can see here they look like this. They come in this little pouch, and you pull them out. And these actually use 4.4 millimeter connection, so they have good separation. So that is the EPZ P40s with a built-in DAC amp, the TP350, TP35 Pro. It's also made by EPZ, so you can get it kind of bundled together. My little sweet treats, my little guinea pigs, and they come in this nice little aqua colored case, and again it kind of matches my phone. So this is like a really cool planar multi-driver earbud. I honestly, this case is a little ridiculous. You really gotta like fold it up or it's not gonna fit in there, and honestly that's probably one of the worst things about this one, is it comes in a little small case. And since I've got the the TP35 Pro dongle with it, kind of pain in the ass to put back in there. Schwiggity, skippity, dippity do, wiggity woo, and I'm sure you want to look at the frequency response for the EPZs, the EPZ P40. Hold on. EPZ P40, as we can see here, so it's really good. Really good. We can see it scoops out the mid bass a little bit on the EPZ P40, and it's a little bit brighter, it's a little bit airier than the SimGod EM6Ls, and it's a little bit more forward and around the presence region at 5K. So we can look at the presence region at 5K, it's a little bit more forward. On the EPZ P40, it's a little bit brighter in the treble and air, and it's scooped out a little bit in the mid bass. Yeah boys, pretty good. And one of my favorite earbuds that have been discontinued is the Audio Hype 2. These bad boys actually sound really good. They have a little bit of a bitey treble, but I really like these bad boys. These are really nice. Really nice. And it's a real shame that they got discontinued. We can look at the Hype 2, and as we can see, they look really good in yellow here. So the Hype 2 are very similar to the EPZ P40. They're kind of scooped in the mid bass. They have a dip around 10K, and then they've got this peak around 16, 17K. So the Hype 2 do have a bit of a bitey treble, and made this 5K peak thing, but they're still really good, but they're discontinued, so they're legacy end game. So skibbity dibbity. I wanted to talk about microphones with you guys for a second here. So we can look at this microphone. A lot of people, they don't know about this microphone. This is the Miles Kennedy SE V7 MK Miles Kennedy edition, and this is the world's best broadcasting dynamic microphone. If we want to go on here and we look at the V7, MK. We can see that the Miles Kennedy V7 MK has a really nice presence boost. So this microphone has really good bass extension. It gets rid of sub-bass rumble that you don't need for voice, but it's really bright, open, and clear in the high frequencies above 1K. So those vocal harmonics are very bright, forward, and clear, while also being very extended and neutral in the fundamentals. So you end up with a very bright, open, and clear sound with a lot of warmth. And when you look at like a microphone like the SM7B, which is a competitor when it comes to broadcasting mics, we can see that like typically when you look at microphones, you align it at 1 kilohertz. So we can see the SM7B, it's got a little bit of a chewed up treble. It's it doesn't extend very well, and it's got the same bass response, but it's just not as bright and open and clear. It's kind of got like this dark spot and this dark spot on the SM7B, while it's much brighter and open and clear. Now they do have a presence boost switch on the SM7B, and we can see that the presence boost switch and bass roll-off switch on the SM7B, with the switches on, you lose a lot of that proximity effect and that low-end harmonics. They're completely gone. And the presence boost is a little bit wonkier and less extended. So you're a lot better off with the SE V7 Miles Kennedy Edition microphone. It's a real bad boy. Yeah, boys. Okay. So I think that's all I really wanted to say in this video. I just kind of really wanted to teach you guys about audio equipment, the world's best audio equipment. Yeah, boys. Schwiggity, skippity, dibbity doo, wiggity wiggity, wiggity woo. Yeah, boys. See you guys later.
Hey, my dudes. 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 I wanted to talk to you guys about the best dynamic microphone in the world. And this is the Miles Kennedy SE Electronics V7MK. V7MK, yeah, boys. And this is the world's best dynamic microphone, especially for spoken word, especially for broadcasting. People like the Joe Rogan Experience, anybody that's like talking on camera, kind of like what I do a lot of times when I'm not doing ASMR, these ultimate condenser microphones. Just like these two microphones are the ultimate condenser microphones. This bad boy is the ultimate dynamic microphone. It uses neodymium magnets. It's extremely sensitive. In fact, when I switch to this microphone, it needs about the same amount of gain as the microphones that I'm using right now that are ultra sensitive condensers. So when you kind of close talk the biodynamic, the SE Electronics V7MK, it's the equivalent of, talking into the Neumann TL103s. The same amount of gain is required, which is unheard of for dynamic microphones until recently. Yeah, boys. So this has ultra low preamp noise, ultra sensitive. It has a very extended bass and treble frequency response, and a very modern tonality, a very modern, smooth, big, broad presence boost. The big, broad presence boost, my dudes, makes this microphone sound very clear, and the extended bass response makes this microphone sound very warm and intimate. It doesn't roll off the bass like a lot of handheld stage mics, and it has a much smoother, broader presence boost than a lot of stage mics. In fact, we can go ahead and look at it real quick. We can look at, we can bring in the presence target and the V7MK. So you can see the V7MK follows my target extremely well. And there's other microphones that are exceptionally expensive, like the RE27ND. The RE27ND. This thing is a huge broadcasting microphone for spoken word. And we can see the RE27 RE27NT goes over the target. So the RE27NT is like one of the world's most expensive dynamic microphones. It's huge, it's big, and we can see it has the same bass, and it has the same presence boost. So, but we can see it goes over the target. Goes over the target. So the RE27NT has a really nasty 4 and 6 kHz peak, and it's boosted way over the target. It's way too bright and clear, my dudes. And we can see, with other stage mics, especially by Electro Voice, the NT76. So that has a huge 6 kHz peak in the presence region. So, yeah, both of them boost over the target. So that's an example of just how this microphone, the SEV7MK, is light years better than a lot of microphones. A lot of people use the SM7B, and we can see in flat mode, flat mode, flat mode, flat mode, flat mode, flat mode, the SM7B, it has the same bass extension, but we can see it rolls off the treble, and it's got a dark 8 kHz treble cut, as well as a 5.6K treble lump. So it doesn't sound as good. It's not well performing in the treble on the SM7B. The SM7B is bad. Okay, so it doesn't have the same treble smoothness or extension as the MK, but it has a similar bass extension, except a little bit of a mud cut on the SM7B. You can flip the switches on the SM7B, and it'll sound like that. So if you flip both of the switches on the Shure SM7B, we can see it still has treble roll off, and we can see it's not as smooth in the presence boost. It's a little bit lumpier, it's a little bit funkier, it's a little bit more colored, and it rolls off the highs. And we can see this rolls off proximity effect, but it sounds exceptionally thin. So a lot of times you'll see people using the SM7B in this mode, where it sounds very thin and presence boosted and very colored, and yet still poorly extended into the treble. So we can keep just doing this. We can look at the RE20. A lot of people think the RE20 is pretty good because it's pretty extended into the treble and extended into the bass. So the RE20, it's pretty good extension into the highs, and it actually has better sub bass extension than the MK, but it doesn't have the presence boost. And we can see this W-shape coloration, which is really nasty. This recession in the upper mids and present, like the upper mids is pretty bad. It sounds pretty bad in the upper mids and presence region. On the RE20, it sounds very colored, but it needs more gain. The RE20 is not sensitive, so you'll hear a lot of preamp noise. And honestly, it doesn't sound as clear because it doesn't have the presence boost for a modern sound. Which is the reason why they came out with the RE320 and the RE27NT that we looked at. And we can see the RE320, it doesn't look much better. It looks worse, It's got this boost here, and then, it's very abrupt. So a lot of coloration, and it doesn't even extend very good. It kind of reminds me of the Shure SM58. It's kind of similar to the Shure SM58, to be honest with you guys. But it's very colored. It's not very good. So a lot of microphones are not smooth. They're not well extended. My Neumann TL103s that I use right now, that I'm using, they sound like that. And they have more of a voiceover target. They don't boost the presence, in the upper mids. So the TL103 is not boosted in the upper mids. It's boosted more in the presence, treble, and air for a bright, open, articulate, clear sound. Skibbity dibbity dibbity do, shruggity 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 shrug. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys a rough draft on how well extended, how smooth, and how presence boosted this is. Now what I'm gonna do dudes. Now we're just using this microphone. None of the other microphones are working, and we can see I'm whispering. And I'm actually in the red and clipping sometimes. But I'm going to talk normally just for a second here so you guys can really hear how this microphone sounds for broadcasting, spoken word, and all those things. And you'll notice it's very clear. It's very transparent. I'm listening to it right now, and it sounds like me. And you can see I took the foam out of it, so there's no foam. That just makes it sound a little bit more clear. There's less things in between my voice and the diaphragm. It's kind of like these condenser microphones. You can see I typically don't use foam on top of these or windscreens to try to block out plosives. I typically will talk into these microphones with no protection, and yeah, you may get a little bit more plosives on the rare occasion, but like if you talk into it correctly, you shouldn't really get any plosives, especially if you hold it at certain angles, or you just make sure you don't blow into the microphone. You can get a little bit more clarity out of these things rather than putting a bunch of foam or covers on them to protect the diaphragm from plosives and stuff. But like, I just wanted to say, my dudes, this is the world's best broadcasting dynamic microphone. All those Joe Rogan experiences, all those people. I mean, you'll come across some of your favorite YouTubers talking into a Shure SM7B. Just always keep this microphone in mind, that it is actually a better microphone. There's no preamp hiss, as long as you're using a reasonably good preamp audio interface. It sounds more clear, more treble, detail, and extended. Really good bass extension, so it has warmth. It doesn't sound overly thin, and it's just an amazing sounding microphone. I just wanted to share that with you. So check out the SE Electronics V7 MK. Buy it. It's the end game. It's the best dynamic mic. It's only like a little bit like $150 or something around there. It's much cheaper than a lot of these overpriced broadcasting dynamics that I compared it to, and it sounds a lot better. And, again, if I was holding this on a boom arm or something like above my mouth, I would never get plosives in it, really. So, I mean, it's just where you place it and everything like that. And it can change the tonality a little bit, like depending on the angle and where I put it. I may get a little bit more articulation and clarity. And if, I point it at an angle, it may start rolling off the high end and the sibilants and stuff. Who knows? But, having it right straight at you and talking straight into it is definitely a good way to get all that clarity and stuff. And typically, the farther away it is, or at an angle, the less top end, articulation and sibilance you're going to get. But anyway, I'll see you guys later, alligators. It's amazing. Yeah, boys. Hey, my dudes, I wanted to guide you on your path to end game audio, the best audio that you can possibly get. I wanted to start with the cheapest and go all the way to the best. And the biggest price points up here versus the cheapest price points down here is not that big of a difference. In fact, I recommend you get all of this equipment. So I know a lot of you probably don't want to spend a lot of money on audio equipment. But this is all you need when it comes to headphones and earbuds. So, if we look at my target, so this is how all of this audio equipment measures that we're going to be talking about. And we can see it fits within my in-ear tolerance bounds. So all of this audio equipment sounds exceptionally good, and it doesn't really matter which one you use. They're all going to sound about the same. Okay, so all of this stuff is tuned about the same. They have diffuse field level treble, which is really bright, clear, and sparkly, for the most part anyway. They all have like a 10 decibel warm, boomy bass boost and a 3 kilohertz ear gain scoop for a wide soundstage. All of these are V-shaped, all of these are fun, all of these sound amazing. So I'm going to start off with the Samsung Type C earbuds. These came out like a long time ago, and these are only like $15, $20. They're the Samsung Type C earphones, and it's called the EOIG C100. EOIG C100. That's what you want to look for, EOIC 100s. And these sound exceptionally good. And all you gotta do is plug them into your phone. Like so. And now, that's it. You can listen to them and they sound exceptionally good. So, you can buy these for your friends, your family. You can buy a bunch of them, and it's a really good deal. Now, what's really cool about these is they actually have the same drivers as the more expensive Pro wireless Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. So these came out in the year like 2020, 2021, along with these. So both of these have the same drivers inside of them, which is a woofer two-way speaker, woofer tweeter. Both of these, this is like the cheap wired version, and you can buy these on eBay for like $50, $60 brand new with like a waterproof carrying case. So these are the same thing as these, just about. They do sound a little bit different. There is more bass and width on the wired, and the treble is maybe a little bit harsher, but they are the same as the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. So these have like the same kind of two-way woofer tweeter driver design, and yeah. Okay, so these are actually the end-game earbuds. You don't have to buy any more. They were discontinued quite a few years ago, but they still measure and sound better than the generations above them. So I like to have this waterproof carrying case so that, like, if you drop them, they don't go flying and open up and get damaged. So we can see I've got a lot of Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros here. A lot of Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros. These things are amazing. You can buy a bunch of them, and they are totally worth it. And I guess we can look at those two on the grapher here. So if we pull up the grapher and we type in Samsung, we can look at the IC100s and the Buds Pros. We can see they measure very similarly. There's a 8K peak on the EOIC 100s that's a little bit more extreme. And we can see that there's some bass differences when we look at the bass, the low mid range and the mid bass. They're a little bit different. But besides that, so the low mids and bass are a little bit different in the 8K peak, and that's about it. Maybe the air frequency sharpness is a little bit different, but they sound about the same. Okay, so you're basically getting a steal, for like what, $15, $20. You're getting wired end-game earbuds that are equivalent to the Buds Pros. And again, these are used, they're discontinued, and they only cost like $50, $60. So very good. And speaking of discontinued, these are probably impossible to get. These are the Theaudio Hype 2. They weren't massively produced like the Samsungs, obviously. So you having the likelihood of finding the Hype 2 earbuds by Theaudio, extremely rare. You probably won't ever actually have a chance to buy these. And these are really good as well. I just kind of wanted to bring them up because they're also discontinued. Like, we can look at them on the grapher here, and they're really good. The Hype 2. So we can see they all measure and sound about the same. The Hype 2, the Theaudio Hype 2, they were really good, and it's a shame they're no longer in production. So
Now, the next upgrade when it comes to, like, you'll notice everything else is wired. So this is the only true wireless, you know, you want to get, the Buds Pros. Now, they do have, I mean, we can just quickly discuss, like, the more recent Buds. Like, if we look here and we look at the Samsung Buds 4 Pros that have recently come out, we can see that they're a little bit darker in the highs, and a little bit wonkier. I honestly, I think the original Buds Pros Legacy and Game are better. You know, we can see in the high frequencies it starts to roll off a bit on the Buds 4 Pros, but it's not, and they have a bigger 8K peak. So, and, you know, we can see a kind of a dip in the upper mids around 2K that's not supposed to be there, and a little bit extra sub bass, but that doesn't matter. So, I mean, I just think that the original Buds Pros for like $50-$60 on eBay are a better deal than the Buds 4 Pros. But the Buds 4 Pros are not that bad, which leads me into talking about the next earbud, and that's the SimGot EM6Ls. These are like the best, most transparent earbud out of any of these. So why would you want to get this? Well, this has the smoothest treble in the world. The SimGot EM6Ls actually have the smoothest treble in the world, and you can get something like an Apple dongle. So we have this Apple dongle here, and this is adequate to give you perfect sound quality. So this is like studio monitors, the ultimate transparency that you could possibly want. You could mix and master with these. You can critical listen, especially like if you want to judge the tonality of a microphone. So say you want to hear how good this microphone actually sounds, you're going to want to listen to it on something that's completely transparent, and that's where you've got the SimGot EM6Ls that have a perfectly smooth, well-tuned frequency response. So these are like $100 something, $120. We can see that I got the upgraded cable for these. I honestly should buy more of these. I really should. But we can look at these on the frequency response graph here. And I kind of also wanted to talk about them in relation to the Buds 4 Pros. So we can look at the SimGot EM6Ls in relation to the Buds 4 Pros here. We can see they actually have a very similar sound when it comes to like kind of a rolled off top end. Like both of them kind of have like a little bit of a rolled off top end. But you can see that the SimGot EM6Ls have the smoothest treble. We can do this thing where you trace over the frequency response. You get a little pen and you're just trying to trace over it like this. And if you can trace over it without ever going over a peak or a cut, and you can just like trace over it like that, that is super smooth in the treble. You never see anything like that through 99% of audio equipment. Having smooth treble like this is just unheard of, especially this bright, open, and clear. Usually it's more dampened if it is kind of smooth. So you get extremely transparent sound quality, extremely well tuned, and honestly the only nitpick I have about them is they do roll off the highs just a tiny bit. You know, it sounds a little bit dampened, just a tiny bit, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so this is kind of like a dampened room, you know. Now, like I said, here is like the ultimate end game wired earbud, and it's actually like a bundle. You can get the dongle, the TP35 Pro, which has a 4.4 millimeter and a 3.5 millimeter jack. So this EP-ZP40, these are what I consider end game, the best earbuds in the world. They use a 4.4 millimeter, which really gets rid of like crosstalk and, you know, adds more width and separation and stuff. Now these are the world's best earbuds, in my opinion, the EPZ P40s with the 4.4 millimeter cable, connected. So you'll probably have to get a adapter dongle that supports 4.4 millimeters to get the best out of this, like the TP35 Pro here. And if we look at the frequency response, it is also exceptionally smooth across the board all the way. And this actually fixes some of the problems that I mentioned on the SIMGOT EM6L. So if we go back over here and we go to the EPZ P40s, we can see how the EPZ P40s are actually a little bit brighter in those highs. That really fills in those high frequencies, and it's got a mud scoop around 250 hertz on the EPZ P40s, so you get a lot of clarity and you don't have any warmth or mud, and it's extremely smooth in the treble. Like I said, maybe slightly less smooth because of this little dip and peak right here on the EPZ P40s, but it's not really noticeable. So I think the EPZ P40s are the most clear, detailed, transparent, well-tuned, punchy bass, because of that mud scoop in the mid bass, like in low mids. So good separation between the mids and the bass, and extremely bright, open, and clear. And so I really think that the EPZ P40s with a 4.4 millimeter is the end game, the best. Now, what about headphones? Well, the DT990 Pro 250 ohm are what I consider the best headphones in the world to get. Now, these are fresh pads, so we can see how silver they are. And when they're fresh pads, there's going to be a lot of left-right channel imbalance, like the left and the right side are going to sound a little bit different. It's going to sound extremely bright and shrill and a little thin in the mid bass. So these actually age like a fine wine. The treble smooths out as the pads compress and get used more. And the bass warms up in the mid bass, so they sound less thin. So the true end game is actually worn pads that have been used for a long time. So these age like a fine wine. These are like, they're better the more that you use them, the better that they are. They actually sound better with time. So we can actually pull that up now. So we can leave like the EPZ P40s here and get rid of the SIMGOTs. And we're going to look at the DT990s now. DT990 Pro with fresh ear pads. So with fresh ear pads, and I lost the P40s. So we can see with the DT990s and the EPZ P40 have the same kind of thin mid bass. That we can see the EPZ P40s have a huge punchy sub bass and bass, while the DT990s, since they are open back, they roll off the bass. So that's just a downside to having grills or an open back design. The bass will start to roll off, so it's hard to trap in bass with open back headphones. And we'd see with fresh ear pads, we've got these treble spikes, especially at 6K. That's the bad spot. But we'd see 3 treble air peaks and a 6K presence peak. And we can see if you smooth this out, you get the EPZ P40s. So the EPZ P40s are basically like smooth treble versions of fresh pad DT990s. So if you were to get rid of these peaks and cuts and stuff, they would sound about the same, okay? In the treble. If you get now, once the pads wear in on the DT990s, we can see that the sound changes dramatically. So with worn ear pads, we can see that the presence region drops down a little bit compared to the fresh pads that are much more prominent, like the P40s. But we can see they have the same mid, treble, and air basically. And again, the low mids and mid bass, they do warm up a little bit in relation to the fresh pads. So you end up getting a different sound over time. But definitely fresh pad DT990s and the EPZ P40 sound very, very similar. And then as the pads wear in, they get warmer, more recessed in the presence. And then you could probably compare them more to like the EM6L's low frequencies and less so like the EPZs. So you kind of get like the best of both worlds with the DT990s. You get the warmth and recessed presence region of the EM6Ls, but you get a shimmery, airy, or sparkle on the DT990s, while the M6L sound more closed off, like a dampened room. The DT990s sound more open and sparkly and shimmery. And again, we can see the bass differences. The bass rolls off on the DT990s. So we're going into like really sophisticated, sound characteristics here. And I would say worn pad DT990s, SimGod EM6Ls, EPZ P40s, the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, all of these have their use cases wireless on the go. I use these to walk to the gas station, buy energy drinks and stuff like that. You can give people these Type C earphones. They sound about as good for $15-20. You can get studio critical listening with the SimGod EM6Ls, and then for the best tuned, most optimum, the EPZ P40s with a 4.4 millimeter dongle, and then for headphones, the end game is worn pad DT990s. So you get them fresh. They sound they're pretty harsh. They're pretty fatiguing when you get the DT990s fresh, but they smooth out and they will be the best headphones you've ever had in your life. So I'll see you guys later, alligators. Yeah, boys.
Hey, my little skippity dippity doos, my little shwiggity shwiggity shwiz. I wanted to tell you guys that Samsung makes the world's best earbuds. You got your wired earbuds, and you got your pro version. Pro version, yeah, boys. They sound very similar. They both have these amazing two-way speakers for rich sound, a woofer and a tweeter. A woofer and expensive Sennheiser HD800S, the DT990s with worn pads that I use, the Sennheiser HD560S that some people glamorize, the AKG K712 just because of how crazy the bass is. We're going to look at that. And then the Audio-Technica M50X. So some of you guys probably use these types of headphones. Now we can see that they all have wildly different frequency responses. But one thing you'll notice is they all have way more low frequencies, emphasized frequencies, than the diffuse field target right here. So diffuse field, everybody knows that diffuse field measurement is very shouty, which is the reason why we can see a lot of headphones scoop out this region. You see how only one headphone in purple is emphasized right here. All of the other ones scoop it down. They're basically scooping out some of the ear gain. The reason why this region is emphasized is that's like the ear gain. It's just what your ear is most sensitive to. And people found that if you have a headphone that's flat here that follows the ear gain, that it will sound very in your head and kind of shouty. So what they did is they scooped it out a bit, which alleviates that shout. They also found that the diffuse field target sounds very thin and anemic. It's not warm enough, it's not bassy enough. So all of these headphones, for the most part, are warmer and bassier than the diffuse field target. Now once we get into the treble, a lot of these deviations are from like low quality. Like some headphones just cannot reproduce a treble very well, so they have huge peaks and dips and cuts and boosts. So, but you'll notice that below like 5K, the majority of these headphones are extremely smooth. But once they get into the higher frequencies, it gets very stabby, peaky, it gets very jittery. And that's coloration problems, deterioration in the high frequencies. Closed back headphones typically can sound pretty wonky throughout the entire response, so that's the reason why you want to get open back headphones. They tend to sound smoother and more transparent throughout the response. So again, we are looking at the diffuse field target. There is a target called the Harman target, which is basically they do a 10 dB bass boost. It's kind of hard to see. They do a bass boost here. They roll off a lot of the high frequencies because they think diffuse field is too bright. But you'll notice that now all of these headphones look a bit flatter in the highs because they scooped out the ear gain, and that's mainly it. And they rolled off the highs a little bit. They did a bass boost, so it makes all these headphones look like they have weak bass all of a sudden, below 200 hertz. But we can see that now the M50X in purple, Audio-Technica M50X in purple, now look very prominent around 3K. They look very shouty, very prominent there, because again they do not scoop out the ear gain like the Harman target says you should. Okay, so since the Harman target is like the only target that's like attempting to be a industry standard, a lot of people worship the Harman target, but a lot of people think the Harman target doesn't sound very good. They think it sounds thin. They think the high frequencies sound a bit veiled. They think they sound okay. Let me show you. So this is my headphone target on the diffuse field. Both the Harman target and my target have a they scoop it out until 200 hertz, and then they do the boost. But again, Harman Target also has the ear cane scoop right here, like so. Okay, but the Harman Target like starts to like. Some people think that you should go like this. Some people think that you should go like this. Okay. Now the effect of doing this. Some people think that this is a good frequency response. The effect of this is this region sounds thin and subwoofery. So we have a lot of emphasis to the subwoofer, sub bass. We have a lot of emphasis to the sub bass, and we can see some of the bass frequencies here sounded thin. This is where a lot of the real bass is. It's called like the mid bass. That's where a lot of impact is. So it's not just like warmth, but it's also like impact, and this adds warmth to like people's voices. We can see here, these are the fundamental frequencies, the body of the human voice. So if you scoop that out, like the Harman Target, it makes it sound thin and anemic and subwoofery. So if you have this bass, if you have that bass, it sounds warmer and fuller, and it has more impact. Okay. Now if you roll off the treble here, it sounds a lot darker. So one of the effects that some people have not considered is if you scoop this region out and you scoop this region out. Okay, so both these regions, thin, dark. Now you have a lot of energy in this region. Okay, so now this region is very prominent because you scooped out the highs and you scooped out the warmth. So this tuning has a lot of sub bass. So this is very subwoofery, very thin, very shouty, and very veiled. Okay, so this makes this region very prominent, even though it's rolling off a little bit here. It's very prominent, which makes it, because there's not enough highs, there's not enough low mids or mid bass. So you end up having a lot of energy here. But if you have this and you have this, now this region is less prominent, okay? Because these regions and these regions are covering up this region a little bit better. Okay, so now you bring back the brightness, the speech, the articulation, the sibilance, and you warm up the sound so that the human voice has more body, more warmth. Okay, now let's say, for example, this is completely flat without any bass boost. If it's completely flat on a headphone, it sounds very lifeless. The bass sounds very lifeless, like, there's not enough emphasis. Some people call emphasis texture. Yeah, some people say like, oh, this bass has more texture. Typically what that means is it's bass boosted, so it's audible, so it has more texture. It's more, so you can hear the bass better. Some headphones have poor bass extension, and it'll actually roll off, and that sounds really thin. So completely flat, it does have audible bass, it just does not have enough energy. A bass boost gives you enough energy so that it's impactful, so that you can feel it, so that it sounds like you're close to the sound source. Proximity effect. Okay. So again, if you scoop out the treble here, it loses sibilance, brightness, articulation, clarity. If you do not scoop this region out, it sounds in your head. It sounds like there's not enough width. It doesn't have a sound stage. Okay, so all of this is like visible on this graph here with all these different headphones. Let me add one more. Let me add one more headphone. The 660. Let me add 660S. That headphone does not have much bass. Actually, let me get rid of that. Let me add the 580. The 580. This is a discontinued headphone that some people glamorize. Okay. We can't see it because we have too many headphones. We have too many headphones. Okay. Let me talk about some stuff first. Okay. So the orange one, the AKG K712, the AKG K712 in orange. Let me change this. The K712 in orange, we can see this one has a lot of emphasis from like 1000 hertz to 220 hertz. Okay, and that's very warm and muddy. Okay, that's very warm and muddy, what we see there. The other headphones are not very muddy. They're not overly muddy and warm. So that one headphone is really overly warm and muddy, and it competes with the low bass frequencies. So that's bad. Okay, so let's get rid of the K712s. The K712s also have this 2 kHz peak right here. So let's get rid of the K712s. Okay, so some people could argue that some of these headphones have a little bit more mud than others, but really it's just a tiny bit of warmth. It's not like overly bloomy, overly bloated. The K712s are bloomy and bloated. As long as there's more bass than low, as long as there's more sub bass than mid bass or low mids, then you're pretty good. So as long as this region is a little bit weaker than the bass, the sub bass, you're pretty good. So if we look at the one in green is probably the one with the least bass emphasis, and that's the 560S. The 560S lose a lot of treble clarity. It dips down. It's scooped out right here on the 580S. So it has very poor treble extension. It has a lot of energy, around 5.5K before the treble is ripped out. And it has very weak bass. Okay. Some people glamorize that headphone. It has very boring, lifeless bass. Okay, so now we have the HD800S. That has it's a warm headphone with not enough deep bass. Okay. And it has a wide soundstage. It has this treble cut problem. It's got this 6K peak problem on the HD800S. Okay, so now we have the M50X. We have the M50X in blue. That have the, they don't have the ear gain scoop, so they don't have soundstage. They have some messed up treble peaks. They have a mud cut kind of thing going on here, so they sound a little bit thinner in the fundamentals. And they have about the same amount of bass as the Biodynamic DT990s. Okay. So, all in all, this headphone has the soundstage scoop, the transparent treble, diffuse field treble, the bass boost that's required to give you impact and warmth and body to the sound. So again, diffuse field is too thin. It doesn't have enough bass. It's too shouty. It's too in your head. So you scoop it out. But it does have real world level brightness. Okay. But if we look at it on the Harman target, it kind of makes it look like it's got that mud there at 200 hertz. Like it doesn't have enough sub bass because, it rolls it off because it's open back. But a lot of people will demonize this headphone because they look at it on the Harman target, which some people worship the Harman target. So they say, oh look, it's too muddy. Oh look, it doesn't have enough bass, deep sub bass. Oh look, it's way too bright. It's way too bright. So a lot of people are like, oh, you need emphasis in the low bass frequencies, the sub bass, and they think it sounds too thin here, too anemic. But some people would say, oh, that's mud, you know, that's bad. And then they roll off the high frequencies. So some people say the TT990s are too bright, they have too much treble extension and emphasis. But if we look, the end result of that scoop and that roll off is a lot more emphasis to this region here. So it ends up sounding very high mid forward. Some people will say, you know, there's less focus on the treble, that it sounds too anemic and subwoofery. So people who worship the Harman target a lot of times will have very BS'd opinions about headphones with a treble extension, a diffuse field treble, and headphones that have warmth. But people who actually do end up buying headphones that follow the Harman target actually end up thinking that it sounds anemic and thin. It sounds like you have a overemphasis to the sub bass, like a subwoofer. So you get this very thin, anemic, subwoofery sound. Because again, it sounds thin. It sounds thin and, you know, subwoofery, sub bass. Okay, so it sounds thin and subwoofery. Okay. So like if we look at a headphone that actually has the Harman target, there actually isn't many. So I can't even give you a good example, to be honest with you. Pretty much nothing follows the Harman target. Some people think the K371s follow the Harman target. But we can see it has a defect. It has this defected 4K, which is very bad. We can see it does have some treble problems. It's not emphasized enough. We can see that the deep bass is a little bit wonky. It kind of has this scoop right here. So even a AKG Harman headphone that tries to copy the Harman target ends up having a problem spot in the treble and at 4K. But you know that would technically be their considered transparent flat sound. But what else did I want to say? Like I said, the end result. Let's put the 990s back. I use diffuse field. Harman target is kind of like a colored propaganda sound. So again, we can see my headphones have a better 4K. My headphones are a lot more transparent. They have a lot more treble extension. They don't have that 4K problem spot. They're slightly muddier, and since they're open back, they kind of roll off that last bit of sub bass. So people, if you look around the internet, people say the DT990s are super muddy. They're way too bright, and you know, it's really ridiculous propaganda. So also, I wanted you guys to see, you know, again, the DT990s when you first get them out of the box. The DT990s when you first get them out of the box, you will see that they're very fatiguing. They're very harsh in the treble. With fresh pads, these are fresh pads in blue versus worn pads in red. Okay, so when you first get the DT990s, you have to use them for like a week or two, and these treble spikes will smooth out. They're very shrill, and especially the 6K peak, that's very fatiguing. But these higher frequency peaks are just kind of sibilant. They're kind of like, they kind of sound like snakes. They're kind of, you know, those are not really painful. It's just kind of like really sibilant. That thing is actually fatiguing at 6K, but we can see it completely goes away. It completely smooths out, and you end up with a extremely high quality, good bass and treble extension, wide soundstage, warm, the best tuned headphone on the not even really audible to any meaningful degree. But we can see it's got really nice diffuse field to treble, 3 kHz soundstage scoop, nice warm bassy, 10 decibel bass boost. Okay, and again, that's very, very similar to the Biodynamic DT990s with worn pads. Let's delete that. Okay, so when we go back to the Buds Pros and the DT990s with worn pads, we can see they're pretty much identical, with a slight change in the bass because these are open back, so they kind of roll off the sub bass on the DT990s. Honestly, it's not that noticeable. The bass deviations are typically not that noticeable. They're not that noticeable, believe it or not. Okay, so that's how they measure on those. So that's the Buds Pros. That's the Biodynamics. Okay. Now again, we can look at the Buds Pros on various websites, and they have their own ways of measuring. I kind of want you to see the treble quality, because that's what makes the Buds Pros so amazing. Most IEMs and headphones have really poor treble quality, but we can see the treble quality is excellent. It has great treble. It's very accurate. For example, let's just look at some other Samsung Galaxy Buds, like the Buds 2. And we can see the treble accuracy is very lumpy. It's very lumpy. Okay. And if we go back and forth, so that's the Buds Pros, very, very high quality treble. Okay. And that's the Buds 2, Samsung Galaxy Buds 2. And let's read what it says. Treble accuracy is decent. The low treble is underemphasized, so vocals and lead instruments are veiled. However, the mid treble is slightly overemphasized. Okay, so it's very lumpy. Okay, and that's the problem. And then over here, it's very intact and transparent. Samsung Galaxy Pros have great treble accuracy. The low treble is very flat and neutral, so vocals and lead instruments are present and detailed. Okay. Now let's look at the Galaxy Buds Live. These are known for having like a really messed up response. And we could see yet again terrible treble quality. Okay. We can look at the Samsung Galaxy Buds Plus. Yet again, the treble quality is still pretty messed up compared to the Buds Pros. The treble is a lot more intact along the top here. It's got much better treble extension than that. Okay. So this is a lot more deteriorated and rolled off and stuff like that. So, what makes this so amazing is you can look up just about any headphone on the market, and they will not look like this. They will look wildly different. Okay, like the 560S that some people recommend. We can see it looks wildly different. It doesn't have enough bass. It's got this weird 5.5K peak out. It rolls off all the highs. Okay. Nothing will look this target. But once they get into the treble, we can see the Kato go up, they go down, they go up. Okay, so the Kato are actually really, really close to the Buds Pros. Okay, so again, this tuning is optimum, and Moondrop is one of the industry leaders in Chi-Fi. And we can see just how close they are. It's just a little bit of deviations in the highs. So the Buds Pros, the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, they're wireless. They're amazing. Okay. They have better treble quality, better tonality than every other Samsung earbud. And they match the Biodynamic DT990 250 ohms. These literally sound the same. They sound optimum. These are the best headphones and IEMs on the market. And they discontinued the Pros. And they came out with the Buds 2 Pro, which have messed up treble yet again, and flatter bass. So this is not good. Not good at all. So it doesn't get much better than this. And that's the reason why I'm always so excited about telling you guys about this stuff. I'm always so excited about this audio gear because it's perfect, and it's very hard to find perfection. For example, I don't know what else is over here. What else do they got? Some name brand, maybe. Like, you won't, like, I kind of showed you guys, like, the closest you're gonna get. Look, let's look at Sennheiser IE900. It's got a big scoop. It's got a big scoop right there. But we can see, like, so many people say diffuse field treble is bad. No, that's how much treble there should be. Okay, that's the reason why you keep seeing it. So, even though they came out with the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pros that are wildly tuned different than the Buds Pros, the industry knows that there should be diffuse field level treble. It shouldn't be pulled out. They know that there should be like a soundstage scoop around 3K, and they know that a 10 decibel bass boost is imperative. So people who say that those three things are not the best, they don't know what they're talking about. Anyways, I will see you guys later. Okay, in this video we're going to be discussing a few mainstream popular headphones and microphones. So again, this is the diffuse field headphone Target. A warm, bassy 10 dB bass boost, a 3 kHz scoop, and a treble emphasis. So if we look on the headphone database, the reason why there's a 3 kHz scoop is because this is where the ear is most sensitive, the ear gain. And when you scoop out some of the ear gain, it makes the sound wider. So it adds a wide sound stage. And this just happens to be where vocals are, like where you're screaming, shouting. I think the human ear is probably most sensitive to 3K because that's where people shout, the frequencies when people are screaming and yelling. So like maybe from like a distance, this would make it easier for the human ear to hear people yelling from a distance. Like if you think about it, like from an evolutionary standpoint. So for example, pay attention to this spot. See how this is a vocal singing microphone. So this is where you project vocals in the same exact spot. So the ear is so sensitive to that spot that you want to scoop it out. It's pretty interesting, you see that? Okay, so for a singing vocal microphone, you want to project and emphasize those vocals. But for a headphone, you want to scoop it out. Okay? The more you know. Okay. So let's go back to this. Let's go back to the headphone Target. Now we're going to compare the DT990s because they're the closest to the headphone Target. M50X headphones, we can see they have about the same amount of bass in blue. The M50X, they have about the same amount of bass. They have this a spot right here where it's scooped out at 300 hertz, which kind of thins out the fundamentals, makes it a little bit less warm. Oh my god, why did I do that? Okay. So, the DT990s in red have a very smooth response all the way through. We can see the M50Xs do not scoop out the ear gain. You see the ear gain at 3K. The M50X do not scoop out the ear gain. So this is the reason why a lot of times you see people say that the M50X do not have a sound stage. It's because they do not scoop out the 3 kilohertz ear gain. So this makes audio sound like it's in your head. So if you don't scoop out this, and make it sound wide, it'll sound like it's two-dimensional, kind of like in your head. I'm not going to say that's bad to keep the ear gain like that, to be flat here instead of scooped. I think it's a preference, if you want vocals to sound wide, if you want a wide sound stage, or if you want vocals to sound more intimate, okay, by not scooping out the ear gain. The main problem is this 4.2 kilohertz peak, and this other peak around like 6K. So it's very funky here on the M50X in blue. It's got these two peaks. So always remember that you do not want peaks and cuts in the response. You want it to be as smooth as possible. So we can see both of these headphones are honestly very similar. They have about the same amount of treble. They have about the same amount of bass. There's just very minor differences, scooping here and scooping here. And, the biggest problem is the M50X in blue have these stabbing peaks, which is very bad. So, M50X have a deteriorated, funky coloration right here. So, remember that. Yeah. But, it's not terrible. One other popular headphone is the Philips Ship 9500s. Ship 9500s. He misspelled that. It's supposed to be SHP, not SHAS. Okay. So, the Philips SHP 9500s are in blue. We can see the SHPs, the Philips have a soundstage scoop. They both have a soundstage scoop. The Philips have this huge peak right here that shouldn't be there. So we can see it's kind of deteriorated. It's kind of jagged on the blue one. And this adds a lot of funky coloration. We can see the DT990s have a lot more bass emphasis and extension in red. So the DT990s have a smoother high mids and treble and more bass emphasis, while the Ship 9500s have more flat bass and a rolled off sub bass big time. And the high mid scoop for a wide sound stage is a little bit funky sounding. That peak is definitely funky. That cut right there around 910K is also kind of a dark spot. But both of these headphones, we can see they're very bright. Diffuse field level treble. A wide soundstage scoop in the ear gain. They both scoop out the ear gain at 3K. And then, there's a difference in bass emphasis. Now you may think, wow, okay, the Ship 9500s look a bit bad. Let's get rid of the DT990s and put in some expensive headphones. I think the Ship 9500s were designed to sound like the Sennheiser HD800s. So that's the Sennheiser HD800s in blue. we could see they have about the same exact frequency response. They both scoop down here. They both scoop out the ear gain at 3K. They both have that 6K huge peak. They have almost identical frequency response. The Sennheiser HD800 have a little bit more bass extension. But I think when they were designing the Ship 9500s, they were trying to make them sound like $1,000 Sennheiser HD800s. So a lot of people who say that the Ship 9500s don't sound very good, just keep in mind that they actually sound almost identical, pretty much identical to $1,000+ headphones. So that's the reason why a lot of people like the Ship 9500s. They're bright and clear. They have a wide sound stage, and they're pretty decent in the bass. If you want analytical bass. So, yeah. I don't want to talk too much about headphones that are not very popular, because there's thousands of headphones out there. I just kind of want to talk in this video about kind of some of the mainstream stuff that people buy. So M50X, Ship 9500s. Just kind of talking about the tonality differences and stuff like that. Okay, let's talk about microphones. So again, this is the microphone I use, the Neumann TL103. It follows my target the best. So if we go to the microphone target, for speech, for spoken word speech microphone, we can see it's got flat mids, a rolled off sub bass, a emphasis to speech and articulation in the treble, a bright open articulate treble with transparent flat mids and a rolled off rumble sub bass. So that's kind of like the optimum tonality for spoken word and broadcasting and speech. So let's compare this to let's start off with the Blue Yeti. Let's compare this to the Blue Yeti. Blue Yeti. So this is a very common ASMR microphone. The problem I have with this microphone is we can see it rolls off a lot of the bass, a lot of the warmth. So it doesn't have that kind of intimacy when you get really close to the microphone. It doesn't sound like really warm and bassy. It kind of rolls that off, so it's always going to be a bit thin. The main problem I have with this microphone is it scoops out 2K right here. You see that scoop on the Blue Yeti in purple? That makes it sound like you're gagging. It's kind of got like this gagging effect. Because that's your throat. Okay, so 2 kilohertz. 2 kilohertz is in your throat, around 2K right here. If you scoop that out, it sounds like you're gagging. Okay? So it kind of has this gagging effect because they scooped it out there. Now we can see it doesn't have that much of a bright open treble. It kind of rolls it off so this microphone is pretty decent for whispering, but if you project vocals and speech and you really emphasize those higher harmonics above 1K, it can end up sounding a bit gaggy. But it's we can see it's pretty smooth. It's a pretty smooth response. So that's good. It just has a little bit of a funky tone at 2K, but it's overall a really flat microphone with not good bass extension. It doesn't have that much of a bright open sound, but it is pretty articulate still. It's a very flat, neutral, limited frequency range microphone with a little bit of funky 2 kilohertz. But for whispering and stuff like that, it's not too bad. Okay, let's replace that microphone with something else. Let's look at the SM57. So we can see the SM57, it peaks out too much at So honestly, it's too peaky at 6K. There's too much energy there. Let's compare it, the SM57 to the SM7B. So the SM7B has some switches, which is what these dotted lines are. We're not going to look at the dotted lines, but we can see they increased the bass extension on the SM7B. They flattened the high frequencies. So the SM7B is a bit darker. It's quite a bit darker. It still has that peak around 6K. The peak is still there at 6K. And then around 8, 9, 10K, it's scooped out quite a bit. And then it kind of goes back up a little bit for a little bit of sibilance and articulation. But it's got this dark spot. It's got a lot of energy around 5, 6K. So I really don't like the SM7B, and it's very gain hungry. It needs a lot of gain. Which, stresses the preamp, which has preamp hiss. So you want a very sensitive condenser microphone always. In my opinion, dynamic microphones are outdated technology. You can find a handful of really good condenser microphones that just significantly outperform it. If we look at the RE20. So the RE20 microphone, it's hard to see, but it is more screwed up here than shown on the graph. But the RE20 has a bit more, treble clarity. It's got really good mids and bass. Like we can see, it follows the TLM103 exactly. The RE20 gets really screwed up right here. It's hard to see, but it's got some treble clarity. It's just not emphasized as much. But it really is messed up right here. This graph just doesn't show how messed up it is. So that's pretty impressive by the RE20. So I want you guys to remember just how important these measurements actually are to giving you a proper idea of the sound. And this optimum target is a big deal. This is a big deal when it comes to sound quality. Okay. What other microphones can I talk about that people get? We can look at some nerdy microphones. Like, I don't know if we should bother. AKG. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna look at these nerdy musician microphones. So again, most people buy these M50X headphones. They buy the Shure SM7B. They buy the Blue Yeti. Baby bottle. So I wanted to show you the Blue Baby bottle because it's kind of like the Blue Yeti, except it's warmer. It's more emphasized here, but it has the 2K scoop. The 2K scoop, just like the Blue Yeti, which is kind of funny. So yeah, you can look at these more expensive studio microphones, like the AT4040. And we can see the AT4040 has a screwed up treble, but they tried to make it really good flat mids, but they screwed it up here. It's all chewed up and stabby peaky. So you can really get a good idea of if the company is really honest about the frequency response. Because if we look at my guide here, it says along the top, warning, some measurements may be provided by the manufacturer and manipulated. Certain companies will smooth out the graph more than they should to make their microphones look better, and it can be misleading. So you gotta be careful about that. The last line of defense is listening to the microphones and deciding if they sound good to you. So again, I don't want to sit here and review every single microphone and headphone on the market, which I could. I want you guys to kind of like go on these websites and look at the imperfections, and this equipment, especially for long periods of time, people and you are going to hear that, that 6.5K peak on the AT4040. They're going to hear that 9K cut. It's supposed to be smooth, not have this huge peak right here. Stuff like that. So this is all, like, I want you guys to do your own research and learn this kind of stuff. To learn, like, what is bad, tonality-wise, throughout the response, like, what is going on. And then you can actually have fun when it comes to buying audio equipment. But again, you can just use your ears. But, this is really good stuff. I think we're going to be done here because this is almost 20 minutes. Okay, hey guys. I thought I would show you guys my setup, like how I make these videos. This video is going to be just about image quality. Maybe I'll make other videos about like audio and stuff. I already have a couple of videos about that. But I kind of wanted to talk about like what camera do you get, what lens do you get, what do you have to worry about. So I am currently using the Sony a6400 camera. This came out quite a few years ago. It's actually very common. A lot of streamers on Twitch and stuff use this camera as like their streaming camera. So I highly recommend Sony cameras. I really like the color science of Sony cameras, which means I really like the way the image quality looks. It's not overly contrasted, overly saturated, to the point that it looks like a cartoon. This has like, kind of a washed out grade colors. It's not overly, black and white contrasted. Colors can be faded. They're not like overly, blown out to try to look like overly colorful. Like a lot of times that happens with like cell phones and like Canon colors. Oh, everybody likes Canon colors. Typically because it's, it's overly contrasted, overly saturated. And, so there's different color sciences. Like sometimes skin tones will look yellow or green. Sony colors, typically your skin tone looks a little bit red. So there's these little nuances, but also I think Sony makes the best cameras. They have the best autofocus, the best color science, the best low light performance of a lot of budget cameras and stuff like that. So, I mean, I spent a lot of time looking at all the different brands of Canon cameras out there, different brands, like Fuji even, and like, I spent months like researching which camera has the best image quality. So, one of the only problems with the Sony a6400 is if you don't have a good lens, the autofocus will be very wobbly. So this Sony camera actually comes with a stock lens, which is terrible. It doesn't have a wide aperture lens, so it doesn't pick up much light. So you'll have worse low light performance with the stock lens. The autofocus will be wobbly. It'll be like around the edges of the camera. It'll be like wobbling if you leave the autofocus on. So you have to get a better lens. And one very common popular lens to get with the Sony a6400 is the Sigma lens. 16mm, which means it's pretty good for like, close up. It's not like overly zoomed in. So you kind of want to get like a 16mm lens. So like if you don't want it to be too zoomed in, and it also has an aperture, a wide aperture of f1.4. The lower that number, the better for low light performance. So like, if I increase the aperture, the background blur, see how when my hand gets closer to the camera, everything else gets blurrier. If I increase the aperture, the low light performance will decrease, but it will also be let me see if I can do that real quick. Let me see. I think how do I do that? Okay, maybe it's this, or maybe it's been a while. I think this will change the shutter. Yeah, that changes the shutter. Oh god. That will not do it. How do I change it? I know this will not do it. Crap. Okay, so that's the ISO. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. Okay, what the hell is that? That's not what I want. Exposer. Okay. Now I got. So that's the microphones. Channel 1 and channel 2. That's the microphones. That's interesting. We got all these different things. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So it shows autofocus is enabled, and some autofocus specifications. Okay, now I'm trying to change the. Let me try this. Okay, that did actually do it. Okay, so as I increase the aperture from 1.4, it's gonna look at the ISO. Look at the ISO. Watch, it's gonna start going up. So my low light performance is decreasing. But notice that when I do this, things are less blurry behind me. Notice, okay, look at the ISO, it's 6,400. That means the low light performance is really bad. Look, things are getting darker. Things are getting darker. So now I have a aperture of f16. It wants to increase the ISO over 6,400. The image should start to look a bit grainy. So we want this to be as low as possible. We want the ISO to be in the low 100s. So now we have incredible low light performance of an ISO of 200. So that means there should be no grain, no grain in the image. Okay, so now we have to talk about the shutter. If you noticed, I'm recording in 60 frames per second. So you want the shutter to be 1/125. So you want the shutter to be twice as much as the frame rate. So watch, if I change the shutter to lower, you'll notice it also increases my low light performance. The ISO went from 200 to 100, so the slower the shutter, the better the low light performance. But watch. Now it looks kind of like those webcams where they're very blurry. So the shutter is not updating fast enough for 60 frames per second, but it's also letting in more light. So it's letting in more light. It's actually getting blown out. So we can. Whoa, it looks like the camera is like stuttering. So if I have it, we can see as I increase it, the light gets darker. And it gets smoother. There's less motion blur. So less motion blur. Okay. So I connect this to my computer. I think I'll switch to my phone in a second here to show you guys this part of the setup, but I connect my camera directly to the computer with the Elgato HD60 Pro, and I basically use OBS to make these videos. Look at that ISO, it's 160 to 200, that's crazy. Okay, so I think I'm gonna switch to my phone for the next part. part so we can see what's going on. So give me a second. But yeah, we can see what's going on. There's the camera. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So over here, I'm literally, connected to my computer directly through the HDMI out. And the HDMI cable goes all the way to my computer. So it's connected to those Elgato's. The Elgato's are capturing. The Elgato's are capturing this feed in OBS. So I'm using OBS to make this. Now, if we look, we have to actually sync. So I'm using video capture device. So we can see the game capture HD 60. Now I have to actually sync up the audio. So let me show you that. So we can see I have a video delay of 100 milliseconds. And I also have to have a delay for the audio, so everything is in perfect sync. So we can see my audio has a delay of 200 milliseconds. So that just makes everything, the audio and the video, in sync. And you kind of have to play with these numbers until, it's in perfect sync, or it's going to be out of sync. I guess I'll show you some of my OBS settings for like video. So those are my bitrate settings. You can like search like what are the best settings for YouTube. Bitrate for the frame rate and resolution. Give me a second, I have to do something, but so this is kind of what you have to do. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the white balance. White balance is the most difficult thing you want to set. You want it to be custom. You do not want to use the presets. And this can take a lot of different tries. So I'm on custom 3, okay. So, see, I dabbled with, see, that's too orange, for example. That's white. That's a little bit more red-orange. Do you guys think that one looks better? These are different presets I kind of dabbled with. I thought this one looked the best, I guess. But you can set it. This one's really messed up, so let's mess with this one. So, oops. So this is how you set the white balance. You get something white or gray. You push that. Press the button to capture data. See this circle right here? You want to put something white in front of it. And then push the button. Okay, so been using this all the time. So again, white balance, like if I do it again, for example, it's probably gonna be different. Watch, it's probably gonna be different. It's about the same. So you gotta be careful about the white balance because the presets, like some of these may look good, like full daylight, fluorescent, cool white. Some of these may look pretty good, but they're actually hilariously off. So, like, you may think think so. Yeah, so you really want to use like auto white balance. You don't want to use auto white balance because auto white balance, it may look good at first, but you'll notice as the videos progress, like if you're recording like a 15-minute long video, the white balance will actually start shifting around. So you will literally watch the colors like changing in real time. You'll see the colors shifting around and that's not good. So you want a kind of static, manually set setting. So that number 1 actually looks pretty good, doesn't it? I set this one a long time ago, number 3. So it's very difficult. Which one looks more accurate? I don't know. But that's how you set the white balance. And you may want to, test it. So anyway, that's it for this video. White balance, if you have OCD, is like the number 1 thing that you can mess up, and it will mess up all the colors. Okay, I'll see you guys later. That's how I do my recording setup. Okay, I thought I would add this to the end of the video, but I do use a compressor on my audio, and that is just to prevent the audio from, clipping, going red, like that. You don't want it to go red like that. So you can download something called Reaper VSTs. They're free, and you can add them to OBS. So those are my settings, and I want you to look at this. You want that to occasionally, go up by like a few decibels, like that. That just shows you're compressing. Anyway, just copy those settings. The threshold, the ratio, the attack, the release. Just copy all those settings. And then you add a gain boost. We have 10 dBs of headroom. We have to add that back. So I do 10 to 12 dBs of gain boosting. Okay, I wanted to talk about the second microphone target, which is for singing. Since I don't sing, I don't really care about this particular target. But basically, there's the singing U47 style. You can call this the U47 style. And this is like for spoken word. This is like the U87 style. So U87 has flat mids. U47 has tilted mids. So tilted versus flat. Okay, so tilted versus flat mids. Okay, that's really the only difference. It boosts the vocal presence right here around 3 to 4K. While on this one, it's flat. Okay, so it boosts the vocal presence versus flat. Okay, so this is for projecting your vocals on top of a mix and thinning out vocals. We can see this kind of tuning on a lot of microphone. So this is the Shure SM7B, and we can see that's the tilt. So that thins it out and projects vocals on top of a mix. That's the second tuning, and then the flat tuning. The flat tuning is more natural. The flat tuning is for spoken word, and it's a lot more natural. It can be used for singing as well. If you thin it out too much, it sounds like a tin can, and it's not really usable for anything. And spoken word sounds really unnatural if you boost this region. So you want to keep this region flat for spoken word. So that, I hope that makes it easier for you. Now we can look at some like really expensive Neumann microphones. Like this one. This is the Neumann TLM49. And this is a tilted. It's like a ruler. It's just tilted mids. So this is really bad for spoken word. This is bad for spoken word. It's got tilted mids. That's really bad for spoken word. Okay. This one is the U87. This is known for being an industry standard spoken word microphone. And we can see it's got flat mids. It rolls off sub bass rumble. It has a little bit of articulation in the treble. Very flat, transparent, with a little bit of articulation, emphasis to the high frequencies. So that's the U87 style, literally. It's on the TLM103. These are the microphones that I use, the TLM103. And we can see it's got flat mids, speech treble clarity, rolls off sub bass. Okay. Transparent mids, rolls off sub bass rumble, open clear treble. Okay. This is the Neumann M147 tube, and this has tilted mids. Typically flagship microphones try to be the U47 style. So they boost 3 to 4K, they de-emphasize speech, they open back up in the treble. So they boost the vocal presence, they de-emphasize speech, and then they open up again. And a lot of times they'll roll off just a little bit. Below 1K, you don't want to roll off too much because it will thin out vocals too much. So you don't want to get rid of that too much. So that's the two main tunings. One has flat mids, which is much more natural and good for spoken word and singing. The other one has tilted mids, which is more for projecting vocals through a mix. This is the vocals like ah la 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 la. We can see that on the guide. The guide here, it says throat. So this is like the soft palate in the back of your throat. So this, if you want to see how this works, the fundamental frequencies are your chest resonance, your throat. The fundamental frequencies are basically your lungs, your vocal fold. You know that thing that your vocal cords. So basically, your voice is an instrument. It travels through your chest resonance, your fundamentals, your warmth. It gets higher in frequencies. It goes in through your throat. Up your throat to the back of your soft palate in the back of your throat. And then this is like vowels. This is like the oral cavity in your mouth. consonants and sibilants are formed by restricting airflow with your tongue and teeth. So your tongue and teeth, your articulation, your oral cavity, your tongue in your mouth, inside your mouth, and then your soft palate in your throat, and then down through your vocal cords to your chest resonance, your fundamental frequencies. So that's kind of how it works. So so this is emphasizing your throat and your soft palate in the back of your throat in your head. Okay? And it's kind of thinning out some of the fundamentals so it doesn't sound warm and muddy in a mix. So you cut through a mix better. And there's also other microphones like this one. This is the TLM-193. This actually scoops out the vocal presence. I would probably use this microphone to record instruments. We can see it scoops out the entire vocal presence. It's scooping it out. And then you could get like a presence boosted mic to work in combination with it. So these are the two tunings. It's kind of hard to see, but one is tilted and one is flat. I wonder if the TLM-193 is here. No. There's the TLM-49. The TLM-49's got really tilted mids. So you got a really good idea of tilted mids. Tilted mids versus flat mids. So, that's really, and there's other brands out there like this. A lot of vocal singing tube microphones. If we look at the frequency response, so it's got 3 to 4K boosted. It de-emphasizes speech a little bit. It's very sparkly and bright. They got different tunings, like we can change it to warm, which gets rid of the presence boost entirely. It flattens out the mic. We got dark rolls off the highs. We got saturated. It does a little bit of bass boosting, and it de-emphasizes the highs a little bit, so it kind of warms up the sound. And then clear is the brightest. It's very bright. Warm rolls it off. So there's different tunings. Okay. There's different tunings you can do, definitely, that you can play around with. But if you know the science behind it, you'll notice that microphones do not boost over 5 dBs, for example. So there's a distinct science behind these tunings. So many people think about microphones as these extravagant, expensive things, but really it's all about the tuning and just having reasonably good components and competency to produce good performing equipment. But at the end of the day, it's about the tuning. It's about, and if you know the rules, you know exactly what to get. So that's the reason why, I don't need one of these vocal singing microphones or tube microphones. Okay, so this is part of it, getting confidence in knowing what you're getting and how to use it properly. You have to be really good at hearing tone and stuff like that to be able to really, for this stuff to actually matter. So this is the vocal singing microphone tuning. This is like a Q47, M147 tube. So if you know that this is bad for spoken word right here, this can help you out. Avoid a lot of different microphones. There are so many wackily colored microphones out there. It is overwhelming, but I'm telling you, 87. It's only 82 dBs. And if we look at the other pickup patterns, like Omni, it's 15. 15 dBA, 12 dBA, 14 dBA. Okay. Oh, we can look at the signal to noise here. Okay, so 68 dBA, 68 dBA, 71 dBA. Oh, that's not what I want. That's not dB. That's not dBA. Okay, that's dBA. That's dBA right here. That's A weighted. That's what we're looking for. So it's 82 dBs in cardioid, 79, which is terrible. It's in the 70s in Omni. Figure 8 is 80. So cardioid is 82. That's mediocre. This one, it's 87. The TL103, 87. That's better. And it's only in cardioid. It's got everything you need and nothing you don't. It has very good performing specs. So anyway, that's it for this video. I just wanted to talk about the tuning that you really don't need to worry about for most people, and that's the singing tuning. This is only good for singing, like stage microphones. Stage microphones use this tuning a lot to cut through a mix. You know, they thin it out. They do a boost up in these high frequencies for, you know, presence boosting. So they thin it out. And they make it shouty and bright. So to cut through a mix and not sound muddy and dark. Okay. So yeah, this is mainly a tuning that's very specifically designed for like singing vocals. It's not good for spoken word. So these are the headphones that I recommend, the Biodynamic DT990 250 ohm. They have a very modern sound, very bright, clear, wide soundstage, warm and bassy. They are a little bit shrill out of the box until the pads get worn in a little bit. It takes a couple of months for them to completely smooth out. But once they do, they are extremely transparent. They actually have the smoothest response on the market, with a extreme treble and bass extension, extremely modern sounding. The Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros have the same exact response. Bright, clear, diffuse field level treble, as well as a wide soundstage and a nice warm bass. Nice, warm, impactful bass. These things are so perfectly tuned, it's incredible. So these are what I recommend. And of course, I recommend the Neumann TL103 microphones because they are very bright and clear and modern and transparent. So these things are the best on the market. We can see how smooth these headphones measure on the diffuse field headphone target with worn pads. These are the Biodynamic DT990s. They have a nice smooth bass boost, almost enough sub bass. A wide soundstage and a smooth, open, clear treble that extends all the way to 20 kilohertz. Very bright and wide and warm and bassy. This is the definition of V-shaped. V-shaped is like, so this is the definition of V-shaped. V-shaped, you see that? See? That's the definition of V-shaped. Warm and bassy, wide soundstage, bright and clear. Isn't that insane? So, you know, if we go to, so that's how they measure. That's how the Biodynamic DT990s with worn ear pads measure. Wide soundstage, open, clear, bright, articulate treble, shimmery, musical, sparkly, insane. And a nice smooth bass boost that extends all the way to 20 hertz exceptionally well. Nice boomy, rumbly sound with a wide soundstage and a bright, open, clear treble. That's the Biodynamic DT990s, and they came out a long time ago. And they are that modern, that well-tuned. This is the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros on the diffuse field target. We can see the wide soundstage, the bright, open, clear treble, and the warm, bassy sound. It's incredible. And then we have the microphones. The Neumann TL103 quickly became one of the biggest successes in Neumann's history. Its pristine, clear, modern update to the U87. The TL103 is a transformerless cardioid microphone with gentle presence boost for a stunning direct sound with breathtaking definition and ultra-low noise. It is a incredibly clear, quiet, low self-noise, no hiss, clear, transparent, bright, clear, articulate, modern-sounding microphone. We can see its frequency response. It's transparent in the mids, a bright, open, smooth, clear treble. It rolls off the sub bass. So these things they sound identical. They sound so identical. Both have a wide soundstage, a smooth, open, clear, diffuse field level treble. It sounds like real life. Maybe a slightly bit lumpy, because, nothing is completely perfect. But everything is where it's supposed to be. Everything is ultra transparent on both of these. I think the DT990s have a little bit more transparent treble, but everything is exactly tuned the same. See that nice smooth open treble and a little bit of a shimmer to it. Not too bad. A little bit of a sparkle, vocal sparkle. And then we got these, maybe slightly, it's so subtle. When you're on the go listening to these, they are so pleasant to listen to. So clear, so wide, so warm and bassy. It's just engulfing. It's like filling the room with bass, and such a good treble extension. It's just so pleasant to listen to. These things are incredible. So, very, very modern sound. Very, very nice gear. Highly recommend this stuff. I don't think you can get any better. I am so glad that the Buds Pro came out a few years ago, because they are so incredible. And the DT990 250 ohm actually came out a long time ago. And they are still relevant and still extremely modern sounding with great bass and treble extension. And again, these microphones actually came out like in the late 90s or something. So they're pretty old too. But audio was perfected many years ago. IEMs are still being perfected. Actually, I think they've already been perfected now. These are amazing. Highly recommend them. Check them out. If you want warm and bassy, impactful, wide soundstage, bright, open, clear treble, smooth response throughout the entire frequency response. Did you guys see how smooth that is? smooth that is. You can trace over it with your finger. It is so smooth. It is so smooth. It is just incredibly smooth. Incredibly smooth.